I gotta tell somebody.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
You need this. Listen to this.
Memorable and exciting.
Well, then be less boring.
I'm going to tell everyone. Wait here.
Mighty remarkable, Big Daddy. Remarkable.
Welcome to Remarkable, a podcast for B2B marketers that deconstructs the most iconic moments in film, television, pop culture, and advertising for a single purpose: to give you, the B2B marketer, the same storytelling techniques that the pros use. In each episode, you will learn techniques from Hollywood, Pixar, Marvel, and beyond, from Spielberg's hands to yours, bringing remarkable content ideas to you every single week. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. This is Remarkable. This week, we're talking marketing lessons from Penn State Football. With the help of our special guest, SVP of Marketing and Communications at Unitas, Jill, how are you?
Hi, Ian. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
And per a text message in the middle of the night from your brother, this is the year. Is that correct?
That's what they're saying. Yes. Strong team. We'll see. I equally have a daughter that goes to University of Georgia, so there's a lot of heated blood in this family around who's going to get to that national championship this year. But all good things for Penn State, I hope.
Do you have a favorite Penn State player all time?
All time? I mean, Saquon Barkley, right? He's can't beat that. He's a phenomenal player. I'm now an Eagles fan because of Saquon.
Yeah, Saquon is a great answer. We're going to get all into your Penn State super fandom. But why the heck did you pick them to talk about today?
Well, obviously, as a Penn State alum, I bring a lot of passion and pride. Some people refer to it as a cult, but I think there's a lot of synergy between what Penn State offers, right? From a community, from a pride, showing up with passion. And it's a lot of what I talk to my marketing team about, whether it's at Unitas or prior roles. It's really important from a leadership perspective to create that community, have a sense of pride for the organization that you are representing. And, I am just super passionate about marketing in general. Actually went to college for marketing, which is odd. At least back in the day, it felt odd.
Not odd anymore.
Probably not. I mean, marketing has changed quite a bit in 20 plus years.
That's right. And then zooming out, tell us about your role as SVP of Marketing Comms at Unitas.
Yeah. Unitas is one of those rare companies where mission and momentum really come together. Unitas is a technology company. We offer a SaaS platform that helps government, healthcare, and community-based organizations identify needs and coordinate services and ultimately measure outcomes for individuals in need. So, having that mission of really being able to help communities create healthier outcomes is really just a phenomenal piece of what we're able to do outside of just being a technology company. And as the SVP of Marketing, I lead a team across brand and content, digital, product marketing, demand gen, and our job as a marketing team is to help tell our story and create value and help these, government and other institutions find better paths for creating those healthier communities.
Meredith, what the heck is Penn State Football?
So their program, Penn State's football program, has been around for a long, long time. It started in 1887. So that's a history of over 130 years. And that's 130 years of building really strong traditions and a really strong identity.
Pre-game fireworks. Remember, 6,000 strong, all dressed in white for this annual display of support for the Nittany Lions.
It doesn't also hurt that they have a history of big success. They've been national champions, Big Ten conference champions. They've had 13 undefeated seasons, and they've been home to legendary coaches, notably head coach Joe Paterno. He was head coach for 46 years. I'm just thinking about that. Like,
Jopa.
Yeah, my dad's teaching career was like 35 years. So add on to that a whole other decade. Like, that's so amazing. And that's when they won the national championships too. So legendary coach. And I want to point out just some like key parts of their strong identity. One includes like their mascot. They're the Nittany Lions, and the mascot looks like a cougar or mountain lion that reportedly used to be found in the area. And Nittany is after Mount Nittany that overlooks the campus. Their team colors, blue and white. And that's now, fun fact, they were originally black and pink for the first couple of years. And so it's something you can wear, something you can participate in. And then their chant, which I don't want to steamroll you, Jill, because I know you want to talk about that a little bit too. But "We are Penn State" is their chant. And I think it really like unifies fans, brings them together, gives them something to chant together to cheer on their team. So all of these things like the mascot, the team colors, the chant, it's all something to participate in, associate with. You dress in team colors, you can take part in the chanting. You basically belong to the team as a fan.
Aller looks the other way, floats it back shoulder. Touchdown, Nittany Lions.
And so I think that's super powerful. Like if you can get that level of engagement to the point of having your fans identify as being part of your community. Likewise, like often you hear football fans say like, "We scored." And it's like, "We who?" You know?
Yeah. There's big debate in sports fans of whether you're allowed to say "we" if you're a fan or not.
I think why not?
I'd say
Goes
why
back
not?
to that level of community, right? We're supporting the team always.
Exactly.
I feel like especially college sports, I feel like, and especially if you went to the school, you definitely are allowed to say "we." If like I'm a Raiders fan, so I'm like, is it "we" if the Raiders score or not? I don't know.
That's true. I mean, I think maybe to your point, going to the school is the differentiator because "we are Penn State" still applies to me. I went to school there, right? It's not just the football team.
You know what? I'm going to officially use my power as host of this show to say, across any sport, if you want to say "we" as part of the team, you're allowed to. And I reserve no judgment.
I think so too. I think it's totally fair. Yeah.
Because it's sports and it's not serious and it's supposed to be fun.
Well, and so without a "we," the sport really has nobody, right? They need the fans.
They need the fans. Well, so sort of the last thing I wanted to bring up is that speaking of their stadium, Beaver Stadium, it's the second largest in the nation by capacity. So you can fit over 106,000 people. I think they've even gotten like 108,000 plus people in the stadium.
Nittany Lions entrance just moments away now.
And one of the things like a lot of people have, like, I haven't gone to a game there, but I've heard that people just talk about like the energy of that stadium in particular. Like it's amazing energy. Part of it, I'm sure, is like if it's all the seats are packed, like just walking into that many people, having that energy of just like cheering on your team is amazing.
Aller throws down the middle. Singleton got it. Touchdown, Penn State. The Nittany Lions respond.
And so, Jill, I'm wondering if you can sort of paint the picture for us of like what that energy feels like and also like what makes this year specifically a big year for Penn State football.
The energy in the stadium is by far, and I've been to many different college football stadiums, the loudest, most intense you've ever like come across. And even when you're watching it on TV, you can hear it, you can feel it. And I think that that's one of the things that when there is that home field advantage and there's this thing called the whiteout and everybody is wearing white and there is just this thunderous roar from the stadium, it is distracting to the other team. And I think that that is something that Penn State fans have kind of been building on over the years. And because it is such a large stadium, it just magnifies. And it is incredible. I mean, I don't care if you're a Penn State fan or not. You get into that stadium and it is hard not to want to be a part of that. And, it's not just screaming and yelling and, you're stamping your feet on the metal, seats or whatever, bleachers, and 100,000 people. That's a lot of people. It's a lot.
It's crazy.
As far as
that's so many people.
It takes, if you're going to a game at noon, you're starting to walk up well before that, right? In order to, to get to your seat in time. And your seat, by the way, is probably 6 inches wide. It is just a bleacher with a number stamped on it. So, get close to your neighbors there because you don't have a choice.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
One thing to add is that Penn State also dubbed linebacker U as one of the things, because many linebackers have come out of Penn State. And I think that's another sort of interesting, funny thing, that college teams sort of like get these little monikers and these little pathways and pipelines, and it's sort of made up. Like it's not made up. It's like sort of reactionary, right? It's like, a bunch of linebackers come out of Penn State and they coached linebackers very well. And then you develop this thing. And then so it means something to be a linebacker to go to Penn State. And then lots of them make the NFL. And so it's this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think that there's like a great marketing takeaway in there of sort of like figuring out the thing that, makes you stand out in a sea of many, many, many teams, of which Penn State is as marquee of a franchise as there is. But also they're not, right? Like they're not Alabama and they're not, sorry, Jill, number of championships wise, not Alabama. So it's just interesting that like just from a marketing perspective though, like when you think about building something and having an advantage, that being linebacker U is an advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be said, right? When you think about these massive schools, and I'm partial to Penn State. My daughter's partial to University of Georgia. You mentioned Alabama, Michigan, right? They all have something in common. Like when you take back kind of that marketing layer, and it's the brand that they have created, that these schools and their football programs have created for years and years and years. And even Meredith, when you were talking about the colors and like thinking about their uniforms, navy blue and white, they have been the same navy blue and white design for decades upon decades. And they get criticized sometimes because they're so boring. Like, look at their helmets. They're white with a blue stripe down the middle. And they've been like that forever. And it's part of the brand. And it will probably never change. And it's something that even Franklin, the football coaches, like they're just very much behind. Like, we are not a flashy team, but we are strong, right? In terms of our principles and our training and our program and everything that we stand for. And all of that, to be said, comes back to brand.
Is it boring or classic? That's what I think. I think it's classic. That's right.
And Meredith, you found that deep in the annals of history that, in fact, that once upon a time, their colors were black and pink. By the way, I don't know how to pronounce this. Cerise, a very deep pink, like a cherry pink. Color. So in 1890, and the cheer back then was, yeah, 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 yeah. Wish whack, pink, black, PSC.
Let's forget about that one, shall we?
I kind of can't think about anything else. Shout out to my buddy Joe, lifelong Penn State fan. I'm going to have him do the wish whack.
Yeah.
And PSC is an abbreviation for Pennsylvania State College, which is what Penn State was called until 1953.
Fairly more recent than I would have thought.
Right? I want to touch on something with college sports, which I think college sports is so cool and so interesting. And while we're talking Penn State here, that tradition is like so important in college football that like you mentioned, I was just laughing like when you're talking about like the famous cheer is, "We are Penn State." And you're like, that's like barely even a cheer. It's like obviously like super sick on one side of the stadium saying "we are" and the other says Penn State. And like, it's like super cool, right? But like when you say it on a podcast, you're like, what's 4 words?
It misses its sparkle, I think.
Yeah, but I think that like that's the cool thing about sports and about college sports is like something that looks very, silly on paper. You're like, well, why do we do this? Like, it's like, I'm a big Cal fan. Cal and Stanford have when they play every year, it's called the axe, and they have like an axe that they trade back and forth of who wins the game. And it's like, it's just the silliest, dumbest stuff. But like, that's what sports is, and that's what college sports is. And it's just very silly and dumb, and all these cheers and all these things. And it's just like, makes you feel so special when you get to go and say all these things, and it's 100,000 other people saying it is like a crazy.
You definitely
crazy
don't feel
thing.
silly when you're in a crowd of 100,000 people going back and forth. We are Penn State, and we're so respectful that we end with a thank you and you're welcome as well. So
I love it.
That's amazing. So 100,000 people is like, literally as big as the stadium is and like on the planet, more or less. Walk me through your first time going.
Oh my gosh, we're going back a while. I didn't go to a Penn State football game until I went to school there. So I was a freshman in college. Everything's brand new. Had just pledged, I guess I was pledging a sorority, rushed and then pledging a sorority during football season. But I don't think I was prepared. I didn't know anything about football. I mean, I was a Pop Warner cheerleader growing up, but nobody as a cheerleader pays attention to football. I knew enough because brothers and whatever, like I know it was a touchdown, that sort of thing. I didn't know any details of the game. I would say overwhelmed probably is a good reaction to that first game, but luckily I had season tickets. I don't know that the stadium or the school was not as big. Like there were maybe 50,000 students at that time. So getting season tickets as a freshman was a possibility. Now it's not. Right now there's a lottery and now you've got to, you're lucky to be able to go to a few games a year. But
for
students? For students. Yeah.
Crazy.
I was just reading about it this year, I think. This is the first year where they've had to put some limitations on student tickets. I think one, because of the hype, two, because of just the incremental student population, and I don't even know how many student tickets they designate versus out of, call it 100,000. Like, I have no idea.
Well, I mean, there's 46,000 undergrads at Penn State, and total enrollment is 88,000 around the world. But that makes sense. You can't have 40,000 kids go to the games. Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I have plenty of friends, that have like season tickets as alumni, right? And then like those are big ticket. The school's not going to pass up those folks willing to pay those prices.
Could you imagine going to someone who's not a sports fan and say, hey, we have a lottery to get tickets to this football game? Like, oh, wow, that's crazy for even for students. Yeah, for students. How many people go to the stadium? 100,000 people. And they still can't fit their student section in.
And there's plenty of people, right? Like tailgating is, talk about the experience as a freshman. I really did not know what college football tailgating was, right? People pulling up Friday afternoon before the game, parking their RV or cars or tents or whatever the heck they're doing. Penn State's one of the few places that I've been that has just open green grass and fields around the stadium. And it is chock full of RVs and cars on any football weekend. It is insane. I've been to other schools. Like if other schools, even if they're close in size, don't necessarily have those green fields. And there is not like true in my mind, right? As a Penn State fan, not true tailgating where there are probably, say there's 100,000 people in the stadium. There's probably still 50,000 people sitting in, at their RV watching the game on TV outside of the stadium.
Amazing.
Wow.
It's insane. But there is there is nothing like it. It's a very small college town. It is jam-packed on those football weekends. The energy is insane. Even when you're losing the game, right? Like nobody likes to lose, but it's still, the energy is undeniable.
Let's talk marketing takeaways. What do you think? What are your marketing takeaways from Penn State football?
I think I started to say this a little bit earlier in our chat, but build a brand, right? That the brand that your fans, your followers, your constituents really believe in and rally behind and identify with. And I don't care who you are in what business. I've been in B2B marketing my entire career. You still need a fan base, right? You still have people that you want to become loyal advocates and referrals and driving that word of mouth and engaging with your content and, just kind of be a voice for you out in the market. And I think part of what Penn State, other football programs, but what Penn State does really well is it's consistent, it's emotional, and it's human. And I think even in the B2B space, that's something that I talk with my marketing team a lot about. And luckily with Unite Us, right, we have a real opportunity to connect those human stories. So it's a little bit easier than in some other organizations, technology companies that I've been with. But being able to tap into that human emotion is really been or can be a vital component to your marketing program.
So in terms of Penn State's brand and like differentiation, if you were to like critically look at like what's the difference between this and other college or other towns, is there like a differentiation that you can sort of think of?
It's a really great question. I mean, what I would say is other people would say about their schools, but I think it's that pride that comes with being, having gone to Penn State and being associated with the school. There is just something that comes with that and the recognition. And it might be like a large school type of thing. The networks that you create, like I've gotten job interviews over my career history just because I went to Penn State. Somebody knows somebody who went there. Therefore, I will give you an interview and I will get you your foot in the door. There's just something about the network. I use that term. It's like a culture type thing that comes along with it. And certainly, the education you get at Penn State, I mean, we're not compared to an Ivy League school, but it's still a very well-respected institution from an educational standpoint. Still has a strong, sports culture, whether that's football or women's volleyball or hockey, right? That I think that there's just a lot that those similarly large schools offer that helps in building that sense of community and that brand that has developed over time, right? Would you say 1950 something, right? Became a university. It doesn't happen overnight, just like any other strong company, right? Like you don't see success overnight. It's something that's built over time with consistency.
I wonder if there's something to it being seasonal, it starts your school year. So it's like every year is fresh. Like you mentioned, like coming in as a freshman to, your first game and you're meeting new friends and you're like having this new experience with them. And there's just so much excitement around it. And this was one thing, I don't know why, but to me, it's like so classically like football season is when the leaves change. Like, did the leaves change at Penn State?
Yes.
Where it's like the air smells different, like summer's over, like you're going in and it just is like, it being seasonal, like has such like a freshness to it.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Football is one of those weird sports where you start in August and you're sweating your butt off watching a game and the beating sun. And by the time, I don't know, end of October, early November hits, you're in snowing. Parkas and hats and all of that goes with it. So
yeah, you get through the full experience, all the weather.
Yeah, that's a great point about seasonality. That's such a great point. Well, there's also just, it's really just not a lot of time. Like it's only like, in terms of home games, you're only getting like 6.
Yeah.
So, and unless you're like going on the road with the team or whatever. So it's not a lot of experiences. Like, it's 6 weekends over the course of whatever, like 4 months, or 3.5 months or whatever. It's just not a lot, right? So like, you only, as a student, you only go to like, 20-ish games, 25 games in your whole, time. And it's like
career. Yeah.
Right. In your whole, time that you're there. And so, it's so, you can remember it's also just so memorable, right? Cause like the games kind of blur together a little bit, but certain games, you super remember. And so it's just something that is sort of seared in your mind.
Yeah. Well, it's like, anything else, every game, there's a repeatability to it, right? You know that there's this tailgate that precedes the game itself. You go to the game itself, you're going to do the chant multiple times. There's going to be a wave. There's going to be like very repeatable things that happen throughout that experience. And you look forward to it. And then when you're like, when the blue band comes on in halftime, you're like, that's the best band I've ever seen. You know, you don't know, like, I don't know. There's a lot of just the experience and like going back to that emotion, right? And being able to just like, to your point, 6 games, not a lot, but when every single one of those happens in sort of the same format, it is, you know, it builds anticipation, it builds that excitement, and you know, you just start to look forward to it season after season.
Yeah. I know I already brought up the linebacker you thing, but I do think that's really interesting. Like Penn State has just had so many linebackers that have made the NFL. LeVar Arrington and Vara Bowman and on and on and on. The great Jack Ham. Yeah, I think that just like that is like really unique to Penn State. And there's a couple other programs that like similarly, you know, have stuff like that. But that makes it really unique. And like, if you're a linebacker and you're considering where you're going to go play football, and you can go play in front of, you know, 100,000 screaming fans at Penn State or 100,000 screaming fans in Michigan, why wouldn't you go to linebacker U, right? But like, you could find your niche as a team that might not have a strength and try to like really develop one way there. And I don't know, there's a marketing takeaway in there somewhere.
Yeah. No, for sure there is. Actually, as you were saying that, right, that linebacker U for a lot of players is probably a differentiator, right? What are they trying to achieve for themselves? And, you know, from a marketing strategy perspective, you always need to be, there's always a competitor or competitors, and you need to be thinking about what is your differentiation in the market that's going to set your brand, your organization, your program apart from others, right? Linebacker U is maybe one of Penn State's for certain players. And, you know, pieces and parts of our technology versus our biggest competitor is something we hone in on. But it's a part of the story that we need to tell.
All right, switching gears to Unitas. Tell us, how do you think about brand and marketing at Unitas?
Yeah, brand is the basis for everything, right? You can go and create all of this, quote, demand gen, right? These, you know, performance marketing. But if you don't have a solid brand to back that up and stories to build on, it will be fruitless. And I think now more than ever, we're seeing a resurgence to sort of traditional marketing efforts because the digital airwaves, so to speak, are so crowded and people's mind share is limited, that we're seeing a lot of, you know, in-person events, not just conferences. And so I wouldn't even say it's like trade shows and conferences, although there's a place for that, but we're seeing a lot of interest in just face-to-face, right? Whether they're dinners or roundtable discussions, some are virtual, some are in person. We're starting to launch. We have our flagship annual conference coming up in October. We've started to build that out in other regions in smaller versions. So I think that like that brand piece and that element is the foundation for all of it. And then we're supporting, of course, with like the performance marketing type of activities and digital advertising and all of that. But getting that share of voice is super critical to our success.
What about what's working for your audience? I know you mentioned the small dinners, intimate stuff. What else is working for your audience?
I'd say stories with substance, right? Our audience, because everybody is in it for the individuals that we serve, whether it's, you know, residents in a community or, you know, patients, we are really trying to show measurable change through our technology. And so case studies, whether they're written or, you know, video versions, obviously video is a lot more easy to consume. It's easier to cut up for social and create little snapshots or reels. But I would say those personal stories are working really well. Vertical specific messaging is super critical for us. We serve multiple markets from government to large hospitals and, you know, payers and health plans, all the way to nonprofit, community-based organizations. And there really is no one size fits all message for any one of them. We are starting to test kind of bringing it through, some new messaging and things. But I think that even the overarching brand narrative is going to continue to have very vertical specific messaging. And then just even from a tactical perspective, I've already mentioned like video. And I would say those events, we're seeing a big uptick in person, the desire to be in person. It's hard in the government space, but still a lot of interest in that happening.
Yeah, totally. What about one of your favorite pieces of content or campaigns that you've done for Unite Us?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest campaigns that we're doing, we are really focusing in, I talked a little bit about that vertical specific messaging. Even government is just broad, right? You have federal, you have state, you have local, you have agencies. We decided to do a very targeted campaign focused on governors and counties and just really fine-tuning that message. And we've created a whole series of content from videos to just retargeting ads, outreach. We're leveraging that same messaging through some very targeted, conferences. I kind of go back to that being in person, not so much to have a booth, because to be honest with you, I could care less if we even have a booth. I would just put a stand that has our logo on it. What I care about is meetings and having the opportunities to meet people face to face at those events. And it's certainly easier, like I said, getting government constituents to be able to accept an invitation to a dinner or something else is a little bit more challenging. So when we have the opportunity to meet them where they are, we are going to maximize and capitalize on that. And we had, as part of that campaign, just a couple of weeks ago, we were at an industry event, and the amount of people that were coming up to us and just asking for demos or willing to go to coffee or talking more about what we're seeing in the space and leveraging our experience, right, really has been one of the most successful campaigns that we have run. And I think it's partly because we started well before the event, really talking about efficiency and return on investment and what that looks like at the government level. Specifically for these counties, we took an account-based approach and we were targeting a very short list. And we ended up having a lot of those meetings in person at this event because that's just where everybody was. And that has really enabled us now to create a lot of opportunities and continue those conversations.
That's cool. I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah. But my favorite piece of content has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
It was actually a video that we did about our people. And it's called All In. And it really is just a story about all of us at Unite Us. And there's a lot of different people. We recorded people's voices, just talking about what they care about in their personal life, whether it's their families, their pets, their children, losing people, whatever it was. And at the end of the day, it's people that drives us, whether it's people at Unite Us or the people out in the communities that we're serving. And it's just a really human touching video and probably more so brand awareness type of thing, but not campaign related.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Always a fun thing. And how effective is that, right? Like to help people tell their own stories about why they work at such a cool place.
I mean, I personally think it's been a big part of that differentiation, right? And when we think about Unite Us versus our competitors, what is it that we hear a lot from our customers and the organizations that we serve is the level of care and trust and experience and service that we bring to the table versus another vendor that might just be offering technology. And I think when you tap into that human story as it relates to just us as a company and what we're trying to do, it has been really remarkable in terms of some of the doors that it has opened. Because like I said, when you're really helping individuals in need, whether you need housing, whether you need food, whether you suffer from substance use and need support, right? All of these things, while we're not helping, fixing broken bones, we're addressing the social care issues that so many people forget exist. And if you don't have the basics like food and housing, how can you, live a healthy, sustainable life? And, those human stories are a big part of that.
What else? Other thoughts on content or brand at Unite Us?
Oh, there's probably so much more that we could be talking about. I think content is my favorite part of marketing, right? Like you could pull all, look at all the performance levers that you want and track MQLs and SQLs and conversion rates. And it's all important, but I get most jazzed about telling the story and figuring out what those hooks are and what matters most. And, how do you think about that across the entire life cycle of, your customer, whoever that is, right? From before they even know who you are and what you do, all the way through to, okay, now they're on the books, so to say, they have your platform, but you can't just stop there, right? And so what are the things that we are talking with our customers about? What are the things that they're most challenged with? How do we relate back to those individual audiences and help make their lives better? And I think that content is the core of that, right? In terms of education. And it could take a lot of forms, from those in-person events and, a speaking engagement. It could be a written toolkit that we provide to our customers during onboarding. It could be case studies that give them other use cases and ideas on how they can be leveraging the platform. And maybe it's just another customer story and it connects them to somebody else in their community that could be either leveraging the tool or just another voice to build a stronger regional impact. And I think that, the stories will never end. There is probably no end to the amount of content that a marketing team like mine within Unite Us and many organizations, but specifically where I'm at now, like it's endless. There's so many things we want to do and we just don't have time to do. Although now with AI, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, final question. What is your best advice for a CMO who is trying to figure out their brand and content strategy?
I think good marketers are great storytellers, but you can't be a great storyteller unless you're a good listener. You have to listen and learn from your buyers. You have to listen and learn from your frontline sales teams, product teams. You have to listen and learn from the world around you. When we started this conversation today, I was talking about how much Unite Us has changed over the years. And it's not just because of the change in the company, it's the change in the world around us, from a policy and a government lens to what's happening with healthcare providers, all the way through to this recent administration change, at the start of the year. And so you really have to pay attention to what's going on around you, figure out where you can tap in and sometimes need to tap out of those conversations, and understanding what keeps your buyers up at night so that you can help solve for that.
Well, Jill, it has been wonderful having you on the show. For our listeners, you can go to a Penn State football game near you and go check it out if you've never been. Highly recommend you do that. You can go to uniteus.com to learn more about connecting communities, data, and care. And if you see someone wearing Penn State gear, just say, "We are," and watch their eyes light up. And
they will shout back.
They'll shout back.
Almost guarantee it.
I would say I guarantee it. I've done it many times with my Penn State friends. Jill, any final thoughts? Anything to plug?
No, I think you said it all. I would say check out a Penn State game if you can. It will do wonders for your marketing career, I promise. You'll start to get, honestly, I think that when I was prepping for this call and thinking about how Penn State really does, like what that connection to marketing is, there are so many similarities. And it doesn't have to be football. I think anything that you have passion around, you can start to make those connections around why do you have that passion? Why do you talk about it as a brand or a place or whatever? And think about how to bring that human element to whatever it is you do from a marketing perspective.
Jill, well, for today's podcast, victory we predict for thee, forever true to you, dear old white and blue. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
And we'll talk soon.
It's been great. Thank you.
Well, that's it for today. I hope you got some good ideas for your B2B content. Thank you for listening to Remarkable. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. Remarkable is created by the team at Caspian Studios, B2B podcast as a service. Caspian also creates fiction series for B2B companies, so if you want a business thriller, you can learn more at caspianstudios.com. Hollywood-style storytelling for B2B. And in today's episode, you heard from myself, Ian Faison, and Meredith O'Neill, senior producer here at Caspian Studios. Remarkable was produced this week by Meredith O'Neill, mixed by Scott Goodrich, and our theme song is Solomon by Falak. Be remarkable and rise above the noise.